One, welcome back to the Connecting Minds podcast. Christian Yordanov here. Today I have two special guests, Mathieu of Forbidden Knowledge News and the Forbidden Knowledge Network, and Brandon Thomas of Expanding Reality. Gentlemen, welcome.
Hey, Christian. Thank you so much for having us. It's great to be back on your podcast. Ready to get weird, baby?
Yes, let's absolutely get weird. Christian, good to see you. So excited about this, guys.
Yeah, so today's topic is part two of all you can eat conspiracies. So I think we're just gonna let's start with your thoughts on the current selection process. Today is the 5th of November that we're recording this, and there's stuff going on in America. So whoever wants to chime in first, what do you think? Trump is gonna get selected, and then we're gonna have a civil war, or what do you think is gonna happen?
I think I'll chime in on this first. I don't have much to say about it because I checked out on politics many years ago. I see it as a theater for division and power and control and keeping us in fear and in check. And it's just another way, it's an illusion of choice that we have, like Coke or Pepsi, like all the other products that are under one blanket corporation that provide this illusion that we have all these choices. It's the same thing, I believe. But this go round, this election cycle is very, I think it's a little different in a lot of senses. It's very interesting. I think it's, we're polarized every election season, but this has a very powerful heaviness to it, it seems, amongst even people who are aware of some of the government corruption and shadiness on both sides. There's just this energy that's dividing people that is permeating this whole election process. And I know that, even though I don't pay attention to it, and even though I don't subscribe to politics, I do believe that no matter who is quote unquote selected for this presidential seat, it's going to affect each and every one of us in different ways on some degree or another, depending on how reliant you are in the system. But it's, I'm going to be honest, it could go to extreme levels. They just passed a bill where basically this like martial law type of bill where the military can basically kill citizens for protesting their government at any given time. And this was kind of just slid in there and not really talked about. So they're also trying to trap people who are free thinkers and speak their mind during this time that have different opinions, and especially those that don't agree with government policies. They're being targeted, and I think there's a huge campaign of flooding the airways with bad information and misinformation so they can pinpoint people who are going to be quote unquote troublesome for the system. And they're laying the groundwork, I believe, to pass future laws where eventually we will not be able to discuss these things. We will not have these mainstream platforms. They're going to regulate speech, and free speech is going to be poo pooed away forever. That's, probably the worst case scenario that we could see. Well, obviously, it could always get worse, but that's what I am sensing is a pretty bad scenario that could come up either way. Either way we go, if the orange false messiah is elected or the pantsuit succubus, either way, it's going to be trouble. But I've seen some interesting things crop up, like theological implications into this election cycle. I've never seen more division based on religious agendas, religious views before creep up into election, at least not in our modern times. But it's very interesting some of the things that are being said along the campaign trail. I saw a clip of Trump saying the other day, he was calling for Christians to go out and vote. Christians, go out and vote. If you go out and vote this time, you'll never have to do it again. We're going to take care of it all. You'll never have to vote again. Like, what the fuck do you mean by that? And then on the other side, we've got a Kamala at a rally, and this guy yells, Jesus is king. And she's like, you're at the wrong rally. I'm just thinking, gee, yeah, I don't care what your religious views are. If you're on a presidential campaign, that doesn't seem like something presidential to say or something that would ever win over the audience. Is like they don't even care about winning over the other side anymore. They demonize everyone who supports the opposite candidate, not as much as the left does. The left is basically calling conservatives trash and everything in the book, but there's also this dark, like prophetic biblical weirdness that has crept into this cycle, like Jesus versus Satan. That's what you're voting for. God versus Satan. So I see trouble on both sides. Trump has his shady past. He's basically, you know, a mob boss who used organized crime to get where he is on the low key and stole from people. He's a piece of shit, but he talks a good game and he won over a lot of people with the way he kind of defied the deep state or seemingly and called out a lot of things. But I see his relationship with Israel, and that's extremely troubling amongst many other relationships that he has with other lizard people. So I really don't think that there's any difference when it comes to their end game on either side. It's going to be more control and power, but it depends on how they want to play it. So I'm concerned either way, but I got my popcorn ready and I'm going to sit back. I'm going to enjoy my life and we'll see what happens. We'll roll with it.
Well said.
Beautifully
We'll roll with
said.
it.
Good Lord, Chris. Beautifully said. And the pantsuit succubus, I hadn't heard yet. So thank you. I'm out of the news cycle, even the alternative media ones where they're like talking shit and even the best of ways. And I was out of that one. So thank you for that introduction.
Yeah, that just came to me the other night, and
that's yours. I love it.
That's
well,
mine.
beautiful.
As far as I know, the nothing new under the sun. I pulled it out of somewhere.
I love it. Orange-haired Messiah and the pantsuit succubus. It sounds like a good comic book, at least a silly movie, like a National Lampoon movie, something like that. We'll dig Leslie Nielsen up from the grave to do that one. But it's interesting also that exactly what you said, Chris. I disagree with very, very little if none of it. Man, you're absolutely correct on this. It's absolute theater. It's nonsense. It's bread and circus, in my opinion. It's that thing. If voting mattered, they wouldn't let you do it. It's fascinating too how many people are bought into the change is made there, and it's also fascinating how many of those people don't look at their local counties and see where that change can be made in their own shoes. They would like to outsource the right party and the correct flag to fly behind and the right color tie and all that kind of stuff so that they'll do it for them. But if you really want to empower yourself, local elections, there was some statistic out that some 70% of local elections go completely uncontested. So if you really want to make waves in your community, perhaps start in your community, and maybe that would inspire a lot more change in a lot of bigger areas. Now, something you said that's very interesting before you even said it, I wrote down, could this be the last president? And this is something Mary and I were talking about the other day. There's a movie 2012, right? And Danny Glover's sitting there talking to the other guy, and he's talking about how heavy of a burden it is to be the last president of the United States because it was all crumbling down, right? In the movie. But I sort of have this feeling, and I'm no Nostradamus or anything like that, but all the importance people put on the financial system and the subjugation and all of that stuff, I don't see mattering much very soon. I mean, you can see how reckless they've been with the agendas. You can see how reckless they've been with the economy. They obviously don't give a shit about it. It's open in the wind that it's being pulled to pieces right in front of us. There's just a few actors still on stage keeping it going. And it's just interesting that, again, when we turn within and we start insourcing rather than outsourcing these things and empowering and self-governance, there's a lot of power to be found here. Chris, I don't know how far you've looked into sort of the sovereignty movement, but I've already made steps in this direction and am very happy and feel much lighter already, and have done a lot of research and, creating trusts and doing interesting things where I don't feel affected by the nonsense. I really don't anymore. And I didn't emotionally anyhow. And when these ideals came into my state at my point of maturity, when I could actually do them properly, that's when it started making sense. That's when I started going, oh, yes, of course, it's a separate game being played that I don't participate in, but I feel obligated to in some way. I was elected to be a part of this system in some degree, and I don't care for it. But what's the answer there? And I found some answers, and it's pretty fascinating. But I think that the stuff out there, whatever that means, gets so crazy that you're supposed to do what we're talking about here, which is ignore the shit out of it and stop giving it attention, stop inflating it with our energy, and do something relevant, which is what you've got going on right now. I always say, but clean that little drawer in your kitchen out with all the batteries and scissors and shit in it. I know that that's an organized nightmare. So, there's things that you can do here at home that are much more valuable than driving to a poll and getting a sticker that said that I participate in the Matrix or any of those number. I think Reality Czars had a wonderful meme that put up about 4 different examples that were absolutely hilarious. And that's sort of how I feel about it. So that's something I wanted to ask about, though. Also, this last president idea. If Trump said, hey, you only got to vote one more time, revocation of election, revocation of the method, revelation of the method, rather. What is up with that? Maybe do they know what I sort of intuitively am talking about here, that maybe none of this is going to matter very soon, that all of it's pretty much crumbling, or that this Project Bluebeam or something like that may finally roll out that just changes everything in a way that nothing will ever be the same again? What do you guys think?
I agree, man. I think that I'll tell you one thing before. I just want to say something real quick before I give it back to you, Christian, that there seems to be throughout our history this class of people that are never satisfied with living a natural lifestyle, with what they have, with just having a family, living, contributing, being creative, and living your life with love and mutual respect to everything. Okay, that there's certain people that doesn't compute for some reason, and I call these conquerors. And these conquerors have been conquering since the dawning of humanity, as far as we know. And these certain groups of people are never satisfied with what they have, and they attempt to basically take over the world and rule it. And they've been doing that for centuries. But now, the whole conquering thing and taking over countries by force, that kind of got frowned upon. So now it's progressivism. We're becoming progressive, and we are learning how to harness nature and harness technology and control it. It's all about progress. And this ideology permeates through these parasitic circles, and it just essentially becomes power control, this technocratic system that we're seeing, and ultimately just creating a slave class that obeys. And has been the overall goal since the beginning of conquering ideologies. They just change the terminology. So we have this group of people who are essentially still conquerors, still trying to take over the world. And it's always been like this, but they've just rebranded themselves. And the question is there a way to break past that? And I don't think there is. I think there's a way to break away from that. I think that, like Brandon said, the answer is going to be these breakaway civilizations, that we have to start our own society, start our own communities, start planting our own food, living for ourselves. And there's something else I want to touch on a little later when it comes to the war on our food and our health is getting very, very concerning. And we're at a point where it's pertinent that we have to start making these moves to check out of the system, because they're canceling all our options as far as in the grocery stores and in the medical system to get any type of healthy food.
Sorry, did you hear that?
Did you drop a sound effect?
I heard a wah, wah, wah.
I'm sorry. I
Dude,
I
nailed
pressed
it
the
on
wrong
the end of
button.
a hard.
Wait, I wanted to do this one. Hold on.
Yeah, that was an awesome point.
Sorry,
That was
I
great.
pressed the damn button too
I
early.
love it. On the fly, live radio, folks. This is great.
So that, by the way, great. I really appreciate the great discussion, of course, so far. I did sort of intend for this to be more lighthearted. But of course, you can't have the light without the dark, and likewise the dark without the light. So talking about progressivism, let's change the somewhat the direction. We can always circle back to these things because they are very important. We can't only joke around. We can't only do serious stuff, of course. But in terms of, because you said that word being progressive, remember? Do you guys remember when Joan Rivers was asked, "Do you think there will ever be a gay president elected?" Remember that? And she said, "Yeah, there's already a gay
Yeah.
president in office."
yeah.
And so she died a few weeks later because of complications with an elective surgery. But listen, when I typed that into DuckDuckGo, the first search result that came back up was politifact.com slash fact checks. So it's been fact checked that Joan Rivers was not killed for revealing that Barack Obama is gay and Michelle Obama is transgender. Thoughts, please.
Did it read that specifically that she wasn't killed because of that specific reason? Because then that's hilarious. Because then that means they're admitting to the reason, right? They're saying, yes, we agree with the cause, but we're not agreeing with the implementation.
Well, the title is Joan Rivers was killed for revealing that Barack Obama is gay and Michelle Obama is transgender, and then under that it says comedian Joan Rivers was wrong about the Obamas. And then there's a, if your time is short, Joan Rivers died in 2014 from complications from a medical procedure. Rivers' claim about former First Lady Michelle Obama was wrong. She's not transgender. That is the fact check. And then there's, of course, the whole article below that. So, not that there's anything wrong with being gay or transgender,
No, of course not.
but
But that thing,
it's more when you're lying, you're putting a front
well, maybe
about it.
she's always got like a yoni again with a little weight on the end of it. And that's what we're seeing swing around when she's on Ellen.
Yeah, but it's very interesting that this conspiracy is so strong right now amongst this group of this culture that we're in, this community that we're a part of. There is a lot of evidence. We've all seen the Ellen videos with the thing bouncing around. And there's also evidence that, in these celebrity circles and very powerful circles, that there may be individuals out there that aren't the sex that they claim they are. And some believe that this is part of some occult practices. I look at it more now as just more of a way to divide, because in the bigger picture, does it really matter if Michelle Obama has a big old donger hanging out of there? I mean,
No.
it does in a sense that, yes, she lied to us. But if she comes out and says, "Hey, I'm a man," in 2 weeks, nobody's really going to give a shit about it, except for the people who are all up in arms about the whole trans movement. And I used to come out and talk about how this is, an agenda to try and corrupt our society, which it is. It 100% is. But I think that there is a small group of people that are pushing these things. But I think that there's a larger force at play. And the way I see it is, these parasites that are pushing these anti-human agendas, they believe 100% that they're doing it of their own will, their own volition, for their own reasons, to gain power and control. I believe they 100% believe this. But I think that there's something greater at play. And I think this applies to each and every one of our lives, that we have these roles to play. And in a sense, we maybe think we're in complete control of our lives, but events unfold, things happen. We have realizations that lead us in certain directions. And I've paid attention long enough to the mystical side of our reality to understand that there are greater forces at play that lead us in certain directions. I think we do have free will to choose one way or another, but I think there's, in a sense, like timelines in place that we can really align with and choose from. But the parasites are playing their roles. And what's happening is we're being presented choices. We're being presented, do you want to live in a dystopian society as a technocratic slave, or do you want to be a sovereign human? And these are tough choices because we've lived our whole lives relying on the system and feeding it and perpetuating it and living off of it. And many people, so many people still rely on it. Their life depends on it. They couldn't survive without some aspects of the matrix system. I think right now we're being presented a choice. Do you still want to be in this matrix system? And I think this choice is based off of a greater force that is guiding things, whatever you want to call it, God, whatever it is, that whatever this greater force is, we are a part of it. And it is using us to guide the overall situation. It's using our choices, our free will, what we choose to align with, what we choose to reject. And it's forming this kind of like story, this tapestry of events that really unfold. And when you're up close and you see it, you don't understand it. But once you step back and you see how everything is playing out, it's like there's no way that this could have just played out like it was. It's so much like a Hollywood story. It's like this hero's journey for each and every one of us. And they have this big collective story unfolding. And to me, when I look at everything, it's like a beautiful piece of art, and it seems to be going in a way that we are leading it. We can't see it right now. We can't see that we're in control, but we are in total control of everything. We are making the decision of what we want to align with, what we don't, and we're moving forward. And there are going to be some breakaway I guess instances of this collective that still wants to be a part of the system. And I'm hoping, eventually it'll all go the way of rejecting that. But I think that we will see a split. But like I said, I think that there is a greater force, and these parasites have the illusion that they're in control of things when there's really something else happening.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Chris Mathieu, everybody, hit that sound effect.
Wait, hold on.
Wah, wah, wah.
Is it a dog?
Crickets, even better.
Oh my god. Okay, crickets. Oh, well, I'm gonna give you a Howard Dean scream. Topically relevant.
Yes.
Oh, there you go. All of it.
That's the sound you hear when you transition into a new timeline.
That's the sound I heard when I came out of the bathroom this morning.
Oh.
Yeah, dude. I it's so weird, but from my balcony, I can now see a street light that me and my wife were like a few weeks ago. We're like, has this street light been there this whole time? We're here like 3 years, and both of us we weren't sure that that street light was actually there. Um, or if it was there, maybe it wasn't. They hadn't changed the bulb or whatever, because we hadn't noticed there was a light, a freaking street light down the balcony on the side of the road. So as soon as that we kind of discussed that, I'm like, dude, did we like was this the mandala effect? Like, did we mandala effect our like into a new timeline? But that's kind of the how I don't want to say deranged or how my mind operates now. When I see weird shit, I'm immediately like thinking, can I trust the reality or what my senses are observing? Can I even trust that we are in a physical reality? Or could it be, how in the Matrix where you see the black cat or whatever, and something they change something? It's like, did something happen? And I maybe they would probably, like, if I told this to like a psychiatrist that put me on like antipsychotics and maybe some other kind of antidepressants, that label me as like, a loop the loop. But wait, hold on. Put this guy in a fucking box. Do you think like that when you see weird shit?
Brandon?
When I see weird shit, I don't see weird shit, really. I see these synchronicities and things like this, but I think that it's to remind us that this place is flexible and malleable and not to get too caught up in the illusion, but that we're here to have a good time with it. And so I feel that those things are more playful in nature, not necessarily like, oh, you're fucked off, because I think that has its own resonance, right? The feathers, bricks, and trucks, the way the universe sort of speaks to you, and hey, you're a little off course, have your steering wheel, and some cars will vibrate. We've rented a couple that'll do this if you get out of the lane or something like that. It's kind of like that. But as far as it reinforcing your path, I think is really sort of the purpose for it. It's to make sure that you're constantly re-enchanting this realm with magic, because that's an important component. It can get heavy and silly and sticky, and that's what the pantsuit succubus is here to help us out with, is to keep this nonsense grounded, but like to make fun of it, and to give it donkey sound effects in the middle of talking about it. That's where the real power is in it. And I think that there are things exactly to what Chris is saying, that there's a motivating force here, something of the sort. It's either parasitic in nature and it's here accidentally, and we're absolutely capable, which is why we're here to defeat it, or this is a school of sorts that inflicts so much growth in so many dimensions that as you scale up, refinement is so tricky, but it's so necessary. So, feathers, bricks, and trucks analogy, that the feathers now weigh infinitely greater because you've calibrated your scale only to receive feathers, and you could see things coming a lot sooner. So when you get invited into a trap in the matrix, for instance, you don't have to participate in that, and you can see it, and you can just say no thank you, and your intuition is guiding you to grow and build something else. And I think the only things that flourish in this reality are the things that you water, just like in a garden, right? Whatever you're paying attention to is what grows, and what you give love to, and all of these things. And so if you don't want the nonsense in your life, stop watering it. Stop walking over to it and bitching at it as you're watering the thing to continue to let it grow, because that's its nourishment, is your attention. So I really do see this sort of blind eye, not spiritual bypassing nonsense to where you throw all your guns away and shit like that. Like, don't be silly. You want to be a warrior in a garden, not a gardener in a war, to where a war suddenly hits you and you're only prepared to, green thumb stuff, and really all you're growing is fear. We don't need that. We need people who can handle their shit, but that don't need to, so that are able to build sustainable communities and ways around violence, but we are absolutely capable of handling ourselves in that manner. So these type of communities, these strong communities, is what I do feel are coming next. And it's interesting, we talk about this precipice we find ourselves with Guy Fawkes Day, which is fascinating. In the UK, they have Guy Fawkes Day, which is their independence. And then you have from France, and then you have our election taking place on that same day. And then July 4th is our independence from them. And that's their election day over there for Parliament, which is very interesting. I don't know if you guys knew that. Don Lester taught me that. So the interesting thing about all this is how it's all connected as well. I mean, it's just, if you want to keep inflating it, keep inflating it, but we don't have to, is what I'm saying. So this could be the last president. You could never vote again just by simply no one voting now, or by just absolutely telling them to fuck off. And I see really interesting changes within this matrix as well, because as the clamp down of subjugation and this sort of 15-minute cities and all this kind of nonsense happens to our food, to our kids, to all of this stuff, then I see it as the demons really squeezing us into this propelled state of self-reliance and self-awareness and empowerment, and where we just stand up and say, okay, that's enough. We're turning the Kardashians off. We've got our local gardens going, and no, nobody's going to come in and fuck with them, because we have armed citizens standing there that are well trained, because we do that. And you have a community set up that's non-fuck-withable, and that just abstains from the fucking nonsense. You don't feed it by telling it how full of shit it is and how much better you are than it. You just move on and grow your fucking community, man. Again, 70% of local elections go uncontested. Start there. If you really believe in a governmental system and you feel that it can do something for you, then go fucking put your money where your mouth is, right? If you consider yourself a leader, my philosophy on that's always been that true leaders say, follow me. Don't say follow me. They say, I'll go first. And when you go first, a lot of other people are going to jump in line, man. It's a fascinating thing where revolution doesn't have to be guillotines in the street and shit, but I don't think it's a bad idea to construct a couple and put them out for display just so that they know that we're capable. I think that this sort of fear of the nonsense is what's over. And this, what happened in North Carolina, I think has been a big wake-up call, honestly. The Asheville thing, where they steered the hurricane to flood the mountains, and it touched nowhere near the ocean beachfront property and all that. And then BlackRock was knocking on the doors of all those folks just a few months before to collect the properties that nobody wanted to sell on. And now, natural disaster eminent domain, and they'll pay you what your property was worth 5 years ago. It's that kind of shit. And then when FEMA was coming in to restrict all of the aid that was coming in from all of the local citizens, telling people that they could not save people dying right in front of them, people stopped giving a shit about that authority. And sheriff's departments started mounting together little posses, and they started resisting people getting their truck tires stabbed out full of supplies by FEMA representatives because they weren't going through a proper chain. This is where we see the pushback. And that empowerment will have a ripple effect. The demons will fade away into the dark. All you've got to do is tell them to fuck off and stop being scared of it.
Yeah.
Live your life, guys. Water what you want to grow in your life.
That actually is something that I want to ask you guys. Do you think those hurricanes are straight up engineered?
Yeah.
Yes and no, but I want to address something you said before real quick about the malleable nature of our reality, things changing. I've noticed this a few times that, I'll be driving down the street and something will pop up there. I'd never noticed that before. And, the wife will be like, oh, that's always there. Or, something literally will be new and popped out of nowhere and we don't know where it came from. But I think there's a few things happening here. I think one, each and every one of us has a certain level of awareness and our perceptions at a certain level, but that can be enhanced. I think many of us are enhancing our awareness and our perception is changing and we're noticing things that may have always been there but we never noticed before. Now we're starting to see things a little differently and pick up on things. I think that's part of it. I think another part of it is we're being gaslit on a massive scale when it comes to Mandela effects and things like that. I think the internet is a very powerful tool to alter things. I think that's been utilized, but I think there's also a part of it where it's possible that things are slightly changing and shifting for whatever reason. Multiple realities unfolding at the same time, bleeding into each other. Who knows? But I think there's also something else that has always been there that we're more in control of than you could imagine, and that is our creative ability. Our imagination fuels this reality in many different ways. Have you guys seen Legion on FX?
No.
No.
It's a great show. I won't give away too much if you haven't watched it, but it's based on a Marvel character, a lesser known Marvel character who's basically schizophrenic, has multiple personalities, but he also has these great superpowers, ability to traverse astral realms and telepathy, telekinesis, all this amazing stuff. And he was kind of misdiagnosed as a schizophrenic, but he really just had access to all this stuff. And this show is a great example, I think, of the powers that we can access with our consciousness, the realities that exist just beyond our perception that is fueled by our imagination, that we create these entities and characters and we can create these landscapes, but it has an effect, a huge effect in this material realm, but it manifests in different ways. But ultimately, we are processing and projecting and manifesting this reality as we go based on our own creative abilities and imagination. And I think that show Legion is it's a great example of our ability to do that. Now, the hurricanes addressing that, I think that we've been in control. We've had the ability to control the weather for a very long time. I think some of the technology that they're utilizing is mind-blowingly beyond anything that we could comprehend when it comes to the control of our atmosphere and weather. And I couldn't tell you, like, I honestly couldn't say if they are steering hurricanes, if they are beefing them up or doing them anything, but I definitely believe they have the capability to do so. I've seen the evidence, I've seen the white papers, I've seen the redacted intelligence documents, all kinds of things that are undeniable proof that we have the technology to completely control the weather. So if they have the capability, why wouldn't they be doing it? So that's my answer to that.
Fucking
Yeah, I mean,
totally.
even on Wikipedia, you can look at harps. There's a page for harp, and of course, there's a conspiracy theories section, right? So, of course, anytime there's that kind of sort of narrative, they're trying to hide something.
I believe we can also control the weather. I've seen this done with shamanic rituals, rain dances, things of that nature, cloud busting. We have the power to do this ourselves if we can apply these abilities. Like I was just saying, we have all these dormant, amazing abilities that we can use to create our reality, to change the weather, to fight against weather warfare. And I completely believe that if we can unlock some of these things, that it's capable. And I've seen it done also through frequency technologies.
Apparently, the Dalai Lama has a guy that stops the rain when he's like at events and stuff.
That's awesome. Just make sure it doesn't rain when I go through there. That's wild. Yeah, there's all those interesting stories. There was one in the 40s of a guy came in, brought silver nitrate out, said he could make it rain on a town that had severe drought. The reason we know about it is because the U.S. government filed a case against the guy and sued him because it worked too well, and it caused flooding in multiple counties around the area, and the government tried to recoup money from the guy to pay for damages and hold him liable. But right there, the government hired a guy to come in, throw silver nitrate in the sky, and they then sued him instead of cover it up. The fact that it all happened, they sued him because it worked too well.
I think we were talking about that with you last time, bro.
So fascinating, dude.
Yeah, it's insane.
This place is silly. I think also to what Chris is saying, because we can look at this as, oh no, it's scary and they're using it against us. Or we can say, well, shit, if that exists, how can we be motivated and inspired to utilize it for ourselves? And, there's a lot to frequency. And I read somewhere about bells. And of course, you go down the bell rabbit hole, and bells are insane.
Yeah.
How, the idea that they hang bells around cows' necks, not to find them, but it's to keep parasites off of the cows. How crazy is that shit?
Wow.
If even rural farmers know that, the old cow with the bell around its neck, that's not a cliche just so you could find the thing like a cat. It's to ring off parasites. And then you think about the connections that send me into all sorts of connections. And I'm a huge nerd. So immediately I went to Spider-Man, and you think of Venom. And Venom in Spider-Man 3, the first one round that they made, he is defeated by the bell, right? That's what separates the parasite, which is Venom, from Eddie Brock, the character that it took over and it controlled. A bell did that. You have all sorts of accounts of this. Now, when it comes to weather, allegedly, there were a lot of church steeples and things like this in the Florida area, and where these types of weather phenomena could occur, not at the frequency and severity at which they do. They're amplified by the technology we feel now. But when they'd come through, the reason that structures lasted so damn long for a long time is because they weren't mitigated with storms like they are now and amplified by a technology looking to destabilize its people. Rather, they took all their bells and focused them at the storm and allegedly broke up hurricanes with bells ringing at them. And then you find all these accounts of bells being melted for ammo. There's no more beautiful piece of shit irony than to take a beautiful, harmonious thing of life and creation and melt it down to create something to destroy and put holes in things, And it's just interesting when you, again, start to look at this stuff. And there was a bell recently recovered in a small town that hit it during World War II, so this wouldn't happen to it. And it's an ancient bell that ended up weighing 554 pounds or something like this. The number, I'm misquoting it, but the number was equivalent to the Hertz frequency of the cymatic pattern that it resonated at. The weight was equivalent to the Hertz frequency that it resonated at. That's crazy to me. So these types of things and reintroducing sound technology, healing frequencies, stuff like that, I think that, man, if we all just threw some badass bells out on our property, the next time they try and pull a Nashville, we just sort of ring bells at the thing, collapse it all, and then the demons start clapping for us because they go, oh, thank God they got it. And so now we can back off because they're obviously more powerful than us because we can't control them by fear anymore. So we can take a vacation now. The humans don't need us to motivate them anymore.
One of the most simple and beautiful examples I've seen of the bells was a Chinese couple made a video showing an example of the power of the bells. They had a baby, and the baby was crying and crying. They tried rocking the baby, singing to it, all these different things. And finally, dad brings over this bell right over the baby's head. Boom, baby's crying all of a sudden, just passes out asleep.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Which, I'm thinking, do you think this is a conspiracy theory? But do you think there is such a thing as the brown note?
Oh,
That's
yes.
possible.
There is.
There is the brown note, 100%.
Is there?
Frequency make you shit your pants and puke and everything.
Wow.
There's a case of a guy that installed a sewer pipe because that was the size gauge that he needed was a sewer pipe to make that resonant frequency at a certain length. And he ran it the entire length of the church, allegedly, okay, underneath. The subharmonics of it made everyone shit their pants when he hit it. And of course, the beauty of it is he had to make it out of a sewer pipe, right? Because that was the diameter of pipe that he had. So it's just really interesting to think about. And then, South Park's hit on it and a few other folks. I want to say it wasn't Grateful Dead. Who was it that hit the brown note in concert and everybody shit themselves? It was one of those 70s hips like bands where everybody was on acid and everything. So you can imagine you and your neighbor and everybody just have this transient experience of everyone shitting themselves.
I'd be pissed if someone hit a brown note at a show I was at.
I know. It's like, hand out diapers. It's free diaper night, everybody, and hand those out and then we'll know.
Yeah, man. Oh, I wanted to mention something. Going back to presidents and politicians, I was listening to Graham Hancock. I think he was being interviewed by Lex Friedman or something, and they were talking about how it should be mandatory that politicians do multiple sessions of ayahuasca before even considering holding any type of office, because what would probably happen is they would decide that it's bullshit and they don't want to do it. Or if they still do, maybe they'll have their shit taken care of enough to where they won't be an anti-human parasite inside that office. I think it'd be mandatory for anyone in any positions of power to do multiple sessions of that, because it's one of the most powerful perception changers out there. I just wanted to throw that out there. I think that
I love it.
Would be very beneficial.
Something, even if it's not ayahuasca, even San Pedro, because it just makes you, at least if you're not a psychopath, things like the what was it called, entheogens? No, entactogens. Like I forget the name, but the things like MDMA or psilocybin, not psilocybin,
entheogens,
mescaline. Mescaline. They're kind of they give you this sort of, they open up your heart chakra, some guys say they just make you love everything. And when they kind of do that, they start to kind of like, oh, it's my fellow brothers and sisters out there. I can't do these things in office. So they're probably doing it once won't really change your life, but maybe if they had it mandatory every like 3 months, they had to go to like a rave, some kind of psytrance festival, and like take some mescaline, and I think that would improve things at least a little bit.
See Trump at a
That's
rave.
what politics lacks. It's empathy, right?
Yeah.
It's non-human. It's disconnected. It's not real. And this is how you know it's not real. It lacks empathy. It lacks heart. It lacks any real substance. They're talking about banning Doritos and holding McDonald's accountable for putting the right cooking their fries in the right kind of oil. Like, this is silly. This is what it is. I hope this is the last political election. This is the last president. If it even gets to this, like, what the fuck are we doing here? You know what I mean? And so I think it's going to become more and more and more ridiculous. It really is. And that it's even going to get so down to the point where the NPCs are going to go, hang on, man, get fucked. What is this? We're done with this shit. And that's the point of it. I really do think it's to motivate us. I think it's trapping us to motivate us, like a hydraulic press. It's going to squeeze you out. It's a distillation process. And this is a fuck around and find out reality. And so that we have fucked around, found out, and at the bottom of this Kali Yuga cycle, as fucking Pluto enters Aquarius for good on the 19th of November, by the way. So every day feels lighter and lighter and lighter out of Capricorn. Then we're going to feel this and this change. And these are the death throes of the fucking dragon going down, guys. That's what this is. And that's why the talk about any future presidencies, I think, is silly. I think that let's just, I like the policy of the ayahuasca moving forward if we keep it, but I don't think that we're going to need it. And it's because of conversations like that we've gotten to the point that we say that empathy is so absent that we need to require people to do hard psychedelic drugs before they can go in office to get a little soul in them. Then I think this is where that's the death throes, right? That's where the system's done. We've polished that turd enough. Let's move on. There's got to be something else.
Yeah, I've talked to
the word I was
sorry.
The word I was looking for, sorry, just earlier,
Yeah.
is empathogens or entactogens. These are psychoactive drugs that induce the production of experiences of emotional communion, oneness, relatedness, emotional openness, and these include things like MDMA and mescaline and phenethylamines, and so this is, I think, microdosing this should be like you have to clock in at the office. A microdose of this, I think, would absolutely change the world.
They can put this in the water. That was another one. Trump promised to pull all the fluoride out of the water. Did you hear about this?
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're admitting it's in there.
Promises.
It's bad. It's not good. And we're only going to pull it out if you check my box. Fucking get out of here. You're stupid. You do not get a Howard Dean yell. You get a fuck off, sir. That's so silly. And impactogens. How great are they named? Impactogens, because it makes a huge impact on the fact that you are part of a massive system.
Empathogen.
Okay, an
Empathic, even better.
empathogen, which makes you an empath. What was the other one? Inactogen?
Intactogens.
Okay,
Yeah.
because it makes sure that your soul is intact. I love that. That's how we're going to remember it. Intactogens and empathogens.
Yeah.
Because it makes you empathetic and
Yeah,
dope as
dude. Like,
shit.
I don't know if
Intact,
you've ever
whole.
taken ecstasy or anything, but
Oh,
it
yeah.
does. You're like, I remember a friend of mine back in Ireland. It was his first time. Went to a Chemical Brothers concert, and this dude was very straight and narrow. They were there for a reason from the US on a college sort of thing. And he went to the Chemical Brothers with me, and he was like, in the middle of it, he's like, "Oh my God, dude, I I love life.
Yeah.
I love you." And like I think every human that has not experienced that, when they experience that, it's basically somehow the divine sort of coursing through your body, and it probably is some kind of state that we are either in when before we are born, or when we die we probably meld into that sort of infinite love, just to be able to experience that. Whether, and I'm not saying you have to use like a freaking empathogen, obviously I'm not advocating for the listener to do that, but even like meditation, or doing charity, or whatever, like just looking at a sunset, whatever way you can, whatever way you can sort of tweak your biochemistry so that these hormones and various other neurotransmitters are released to kind of snap you out of this sort of fear-based programming that all the shit around us is seemingly designed to do. I think it was so it's so and it's I think it's all about like finding ways to boost our dopamine, right? Whatever ways you can do, doing novel things. But I think this is where a lot of these folks, because I don't know if you ever noticed, a lot of these people, they don't look happy in terms of like the lizard people, the globalists. They never seem like they're actually happy. They seem like they're really sort of broken people that have been um, just crushed into submission for an agenda bigger than their life is going to be. So they seem like really. And have you noticed like there's never any hot globalists? Like you never see like a Brad
Smoke
Pitt,
show
there's not.
globalists.
Leonardo
Yeah. What about
DiCaprio
the Vril
dude.
Society, right? Hitler had it going with that chick,
Yeah,
man. She was a fucking smoke show. Yeah, the globalists have gone downhill in the appeal department. I do agree in all areas, right? They're not even stylish. They're just
Like, dude,
boring.
yeah, like Kissinger, like, dude, who is banging that guy? Like, who wants to bang that dude? I don't know.
I think their inner energy just seeps through to their physicality, and it just they
Yeah,
can't help but be ugly motherfuckers because they're so ugly on the
The
inside. It
core.
just seeps
I
on
think
through.
so. Yeah, I think
I
so, dude.
didn't take long for me during my psychedelic journeys to have this knowing that we're all one, that we're all connected, that it's all there. We're all connected in some way, shape, or form, and there was a sense of oneness. And I think that there's right now this illusion of separation that's been going on for centuries, that we fractalized so far apart that we believe that we are separate. I think that's the source of all human conflict, is this illusion of separation. But I wanted to bring up something that's very, it makes me optimistic. And I really enjoy that. I've heard this so much that I talk to, and Brandon, I'm sure you do too, talk to a lot of intuitives and psychics and people who study consciousness, or channelers, people who have a connection to some sort of information field. And I'd say about 80 to 90% of these folks are presenting a similar message, like you said earlier, that this shit show is coming to an end, that whatever parasitic force is perpetuating the darkness is either ready to retire or their contract's up or they're just sick of all the shit, but it's coming to an end and they are revealing themselves in ways that have never happened before. They're trying to say, hey, motherfuckers, this is what's going on, and screaming it at us. And it's a very special time in human history where we may actually see fundamental changes in the way our system operates within our lifetime, possibly. And I just get this message so consistently, I have to believe there's something to it.
Yes. Fucking too many yeses, Chris. Too many goddamn yeses, dude. I've got them all for you. You get another Howard Dean yell. Yes, dude. This is it. This is the demons clapping. This is them going, fuck, and thank God. This, yes, right here. You get it. Because it's us standing up. It's just us simply saying, fuck, no. But we have to make the choice, right? And this is why it has to get more and more and more and more and more ridiculous so that people finally go, I don't want to choose this anymore. I'm not going to water this section of the garden. This parasite's going away. I'm not interested in it. But you've nailed it with this, man. That's why it's ramped up. That's why they're wearing masks that stick out and fucking are in a fake White House with the lighting all wrong, the wallpaper wrong, the backdrop wrong. NASA's full of shit. And you know this. It's all fake. And they're doing it so obviously so that you people, everyone, will go, no, thank you. That's it. Just no fucking thank you. And then we get to do something else. We get to do something way better, right? That's the whole point of this. And I do think that this is timed perfectly with this sort of Aquarius move, and say what you want about astrology, but it's fascinating. Coming out of Capricorn, this rigid structure ideology into this much more airy, fairy, fucking anything's possible type sign like Aquarius, that's where we're going to be for the next 20 years. So it's fully out. Like there's this little dance that it did back and forth because of the way that things move, but now it's fully going, and literally the countdown is on. It's in a matter of days here. We will be fully embraced into this sign that creates no more nonsense for itself. The thing that happened for me with ayahuasca, what it did result, I didn't get contact from mother or anything like that. What I did get was the inability to bullshit myself. What I mean when I say that is I can't lie to myself anymore. I can't sit here and say this is okay when it's not. I'm fully emotive. If I'm going to cry, I'm going to fucking cry. If I'm happy about something, you know about it. If something's on my mind, I've got resting bitch face. I can't lie to myself, okay? So within this, I feel that this process is what's occurring on a realm level. Chris, you nailed it with this. The demon face syndrome. Have you guys heard of this?
No.
Oh, have you not? Please pull it up. Can you share screen and like pull stuff up?
No.
So you could show people what this looks like?
No.
While you're pulling this up, this is exactly to what you're talking about, Chris. The realm is revealing itself, whether we like it or not. So it's changing because people kept clicking on the Kardashians and sitting down rather than cleaning out that drawer I was talking about or taking their son fishing. They sat down and did fuck all. But now the parasite has grown to a point where it can't be ignored. And all you have to do is choose no thank you. You just no thank you. And it moves on. Off it fucks, literally. It's just now so visible that there's no way that you would continue to choose it. Those are going to be the odd people out, the people who continue to choose this shit. So if you've pulled up Demon Face already, I'll just go through it for the audience. Go ahead.
So yeah, metamorphosia.
Yeah, I was going to see who wanted to give the word a go. I usually, if I've got a guest on and I pull this up, I go, here, give that a go. And they'll say.
I think you nailed it for all of us, Christian.
Prosopometamorphosia, also known as demon face syndrome, is a visual disorder characterized by altered perceptions of faces. In the perception of a person with the disorder, facial features are distorted in a variety of ways, including drooping, swelling, and discoloration, and shifts of position.
And shift in position of face. So if you look at the images that accompany that, they will show you a few images of people with pointy ears, and there's like an Asian girl and a white guy. And those are the people they've chosen to model this after. And there's people with account after account after account of seeing these demon faces appear in front of them in shopping malls and educators and politicians, all kinds of stuff, right? So when you look at something like that, what it is, and Christian, you nailed it. It's a whole fucking, it's a this disorder, right? So the whole point of that is that it's your problem, okay? That when you see demon faces, they're not really demon faces, all right? It's you with an issue called, Christian?
PMO.
PMO.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
project management
Demon face syndrome.
or
Demon fucking
orphosia.
face, man. Yeah, you got that thing, but it's your issue. And I'm sure there's medicine for it. Okay. But the funny thing about this is it's your fucking problem. But what are we really seeing? Okay. Maybe you're seeing the realm reveal its true colors. You know, it's like at the end of They Live when the signal's smashed and it can't broadcast its bullshit to fake us out anymore. And all the lizard turds are revealed and then they're easily submerged. I mean, it's easy. You can see that this is fading down around you and that demons are literally going to be possibly revealing themselves in front of you because people continue to watch the Kardashians instead of taking their kid fishing or something.
Bro, so apparently there's been 75 cases reported in the scientific literature of this prosopometamorphosia. That's fucking insane.
Major news outlets covered this. You will see news story after news story. It was on the news cycle for a while. That it's going to, and so what that means is they put it out into the reality because they want you to know about, think about, and be aware that when something like this happens, you already have an answer for it, and it's your fucking problem. Or when your child comes home and says, "My teacher turned into a demon today," they can go, "Aha! I know exactly what pill to give you, little Timmy, because that's demon face syndrome. I can't pronounce it, but I've got a pill for you, buddy, because that's a syndrome, and it's okay. They've identified it. It's going to be okay, little kid." And we hope, though, that people go instead, "Man, your fucking teacher's a demon, and I should have taken you out and done some unschooling," because there's many resources out there on that long ago. But yes, your teachers are probably going to start turning into demons because you keep sending your kids to school. Stop sending them there. Get into communities, and the demons will move on and go do something else.
Dude, this reminds me of my insane psychedelic experience where my ex-girlfriend turned into a reptilian and chased me around my house.
Yes, this is what I thought of. Yes.
So
your story.
She didn't literally change into a reptilian and chase me around my house. I was, in a sense, seeing where I went wrong, and where I went wrong was even getting with this woman. And it was showing me her reptilian energy and nature, and that started revealing itself in the following days. She started, showing her dark side to me, but the psychedelic experience revealed that to me. And even though, it's not necessarily her, because she's probably always like that no matter what, but I am the one, it's my life, I'm engaging with it, it's my problem at this point. So they were revealing the situation that I was in to me.
Mhm.
But you got that demon face syndrome,
I
dude.
did. It was more. It was more than demon face, man.
See, that's what I'm saying, though. But what happened is that you moved out of a bad situation because it was physically revealed to you because you ignored all the feathers, bricks, and trucks along the way.
100%.
Dude, this realm is fucking nuts. I'm telling you. And then you'll start seeing the feathers fall, and that you'll like catch them like Neo, dude. It's insane. Like it's crazy when you really, and that's your intuition. That's what it does. It's guiding you through this bitch. And you know me. I've abandoned this type of talk, man, but I've come intellectually to a point where you can't intellectualize this anymore. It's riddled with paradox. And so the only intellectual thing to do in a world riddled with paradox is to abandon the idea of intellectually conquering it. And so you literally need to abandon that, go into full fucking surrender and just flow with this shit, but with ease, and unemotion. Let that shit flow through you. Just water your glue, rubber glue, fucking flow like water and wind and shit, and just move, man. It's
I gotta be honest,
interesting, dude.
I gotta be honest. I'm not saying obviously, Chris, I've had you on my show and you kind of discussed that story, and I'm not saying a lot of these folks out there, the what's the word you used?
Reptilian?
Intuitives.
Oh, intuitive. Yeah.
I'm not saying that their perceptions are wrong or anything, but I believe, and I kind of was gonna do an episode on this at some point on the podcast about. I was gonna title it something like many quote unquote spiritual people are in a somewhat of a mild state of psychosis slash potentially mania. And the reason I say that is because if you look at, I was just kind of put up while I put in the that name of that disorder, quote unquote. So, you know, uh, prosopometamorphosia, and I put serotonin next to it, and some other disorder came up, which is called hallucinogen persisting perception disorder, and it has a diagnostic category in the DSM-5, right? So, this is where folks get flashbacks and stuff like that. So, the thing is, what they talk about is, a lot of these hallucinogens, a lot of these psychedelics, they actually the way they cause these hallucinations is they actually activate one of the serotonin receptors, or some of them, not maybe just that one, but particularly the 5-HT2A receptor. That is the one that is kind of creates this inhibition and kind of the psychedelic aspect. So the thing is, we've been kind of brainwashed that serotonin is the chemical that makes you feel good and blah blah, mood regulator. But actually, if you look at it in psychosis, in various sort of mental quote unquote disorders, including depression, but also schizophrenia, serotonin is actually high, and it also raises cortisol in the body. So I think what a lot of folks that potentially are getting vision, I'm not saying all, like I'm sure some of it is absolutely genuine, but I think a lot of folks, they have a high serotonin level because potentially their dopamine is low because of, and serotonin, by the way, it rises when you're stressed. So for example, the COVID fiasco, that whole sort of the first couple of months of that whole fiasco, that in and of itself raised a lot of people's serotonin. It's kind of like a chemical that helps you um shuttle resources and shut down aspects of the metabolism when you're in very severe stress. So I believe, like, like when, sorry to be morbid or whatever, but when people are like doing part of, let's say, MK Ultra, or they're being experimented on or tortured, at some point they sort of decouple their consciousness from their body. And I strongly believe it's things like serotonin, and then maybe when it's death, maybe DMT, which is very similar to serotonin, to tryptamine. I think these chemicals sort of maybe so serotonin will dull the pain. That's why people, like, when they're on a SSRI that increases serotonin, they're numbed. That's why, like, even some guys, they use it in order to last longer in bed because it numbs the feelings, sensations, and stuff like that. So I believe a lot of this stuff is because we are basically the entire society is designed to put us in a more serotonergic state. That's why the SSRIs are so prevalent. Like 43 million Americans were on SSRIs in 2020. At the start of 2020 or whatever. Um, and that is, I believe, what creates part of this distorted reality. Because, and I honestly believe, a lot of these people, if they take an anti-serotonin chemical, a lot of these things will go away, and that's how you know that it was the serotonin and the sort of the biochemical milieu in your central nervous system causing it. If you take an anti-serotonin chemical, some of these, by the way, are over the counter in the USA and various countries, right? Like certain antihistamines can do that. If you take that and you still are seeing the visions and stuff like that, it could be some kind of genuine, like, talent a person has. But if they go away, it's very likely it was kind of this hormonal, biochemical, neurotransmitter type milieu sort of creating that, if that makes sense.
I got to speak up. I have a very interesting perspective on this, and I am in no way have any medical knowledge that I could apply to this at all. This is just based on it, my own perspective, my intuition, guests that I've had, research that I've done. So consider this. What if these chemicals, such as serotonin, aren't necessarily causing us to create things? They are shifting our perception in a sense. I believe that our brain is nothing more than a receiver for information, that these chemicals, they act as different fuels to receive different transmissions.
Mhm.
If we have an overflow of serotonin, we may be overactively tuning into something else out there. I think it's possible that people with schizophrenia, different mental disorders, have those. The chemicals, they show up in tests, so the doctors are like, "Oh, it's caused by the chemicals." Well, what if the chemicals are just a fuel to connect to some of the information field? And what people, schizophrenia, people with mental disorders, what's going on is those chemicals are connecting to something, and it's misfiring because their receiver, their brain, has a fundamental tick in it, or it's got a little problem that needs to be addressed fundamentally. But what these drugs do is, instead of addressing a fundamental problem, they will put a damper on the receiver so they just don't receive that information anymore. And it's acting like it is quote unquote, curing something for a person, when in reality, they have just, in a sense, lost a level of control over these chemicals, and they are interpreting different things, and they are accessing different information fields that people with a normal functioning serotonin or chemicals don't normally access. And this is just a theory, but I think
Yeah.
it's very possible and interesting.
Yeah, I mean, mine is just a theory as well. So, I'm absolutely open-minded to yours as well. I genuinely think that we are able to get these quote unquote downloads when our biochemistry is tweaked in a certain way. I think that stress, a lot of us, you see, when you and the it's kind of hard to articulate, but when you are really like, how if you put somebody in solitary confinement, like 1 week could be enough for them to like flip out and go, you know create their own family and friend network that they're talking to. So I think when the stress becomes so sort of unbearable, this is probably like a some kind of an outlet or a fuse, or like just vent. It
Well,
helps you
wouldn't it be
vent.
an altered state? Stress putting you in an altered state? I think the key is altered states. I think that
Exactly.
anything that alters our chemical physiology is going to put us in an altered state, which, in a sense, this altered state is really enhanced perception or ability to perceive different levels of reality. And even stress, even though it's considered, abnormal or harmful, what it is, in a sense, could be doing is just activating those chemicals and opening a door, in a sense.
So do you think maybe that's what they were trying to figure out with the MK Ultra experiment?
100%.
Yeah,
100%.
that they could, because I think you and Ryder were talking about with some of your guests, where that's how they were able to unlock those
They create
capabilities.
alter personalities, delusions. I think that's what the super soldier program is. I think they're taking people, or maybe just somehow implanting false memories of being on Mars and going shoot around the galaxy and fight aliens, when in a sense they're just laying there dreaming, and the vision is so real that they believe it. And I think that our consciousness is so powerful, in a sense, that it is the key to traveling the universe. We can go anywhere from within, and we have access to everything.
What's your thoughts, Brendan?
Wild realm, man. Just wild fucking place. Because I don't disagree with any of it. The measurable degrees in science of the levels you're finding would reflect a vibrational sense, a vibrational frequency of sorts. Because yes, if you can keep somebody in enough fluoride and serotonin and fight or flight and cytokine storms, and you can get them to do anything you want, right? So this combination of it's stimuli, really. And so what is the key to meditation, right? What do they always say? The job is to sit still and quiet with no stimuli and see what comes through and just let it pass through you, meaning that whatever comes in doesn't stimulate you. You just let it move on. This is the key to this reality, is to be impermeable, like permeable for things, to where they just flow right through you. They may come your direction, but you don't need to tense up, get scared, and let it bounce off you and all of that. I mean, there's an old saying, whenever you're in a car crash or something like this, the reason that you break bones is because you tense up. The reason drunk people survive is because they're loose and they're fucking flexible and they're rolling with it, right? So the idea is, in an impact, just fucking go limp, man. Surrender, release, relax. It's this resistance. That's what solidifies this worldview you have based on the frequency that you're locked into. And biochemically, we talk about a lot of things with this. With Steve Falconer was talking about his the tissue salts and
Love
being
Steve.
more electromagnetically conductive. And these were things that were denied to you in the womb. These salts, and they're very based on your astrology, really, but it changes your physiology to where you're more electromagnetically conductive. And so you resonate at a literal different frequency. Your body can't tolerate bullshit. And so you're not there. You literally don't see it. So to also what you guys were talking about things popping in and out of your reality, it's your reticular activating system at work like crazy, but that's guided by how you're chemically perceiving your reality and what frequency you're tuned to is what you're literally seeing. When you're shopping for a car, you're going to see a shitload of that kind of car. If you are wanting to have a baby, you and your partner will see people with babies all over the fucking place. It's not that they were all, was it, or the question then becomes, were they there the whole time, or did you manifest them because now you're paying more attention to them and they're more in your reality? Are you tuned now to a frequency biochemically, all of it, to where you are now in a frequency to where you see them everywhere? Therefore, it's a prolific thing that of course you're going to have access to because it's everywhere. It's a fascinating realm in the sense that really paying attention to things and how you respond to things is what the big thing is. I don't ever think this realm is about the thing occurring. I think it's about the reaction and relationship you have to it. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. That's why things can pop up, air quotes, that will cause a similar feeling of whatever, right? Its job is just to get that feeling out of you or to give you an opportunity to see if that's still the way that you want to react. Just let it pass through you. But it is a fascinating realm, man.
What other quote unquote conspiracy theories do you want to discuss?
I wanted to bring up something, especially because Christian, you're in the healthcare space, and I've noticed something very disturbing that is occurring within our food industries in general. Lots of the brands that are claimed to be quote unquote organic are being bought up by General Mills, by some of these big corporate food industries. And my question is it going, can you still consider it organic? What fundamental changes are they making? Should we be concerned that, a lot of the brands that we relied on that we thought were going to be at least a little healthier for us, that we could easily just go pick up food at our grocery store and not have to worry about being poisoned? Well, now the foods that we relied on are being produced by the same companies that produce all the poisons. And I guarantee if you go down to your grocery store, you go down to the health food aisle and you look for each brand, I'd say 50-60% or more have now been bought up by big, disgusting corporations. And that is concerning, along with they are banning different natural supplements, vitamins, health products, vegetables, fruits. They're attempting to. They are putting a bill out there with a list of all these incredibly healthy things that are extremely beneficial to the human body and natural, and they are trying to schedule them.
Do you
and
know
ban them.
where I could
Let me
find
ask you
that?
right here. Okay, out of that list, how many of us are growing those things at home so we don't need to outsource it?
That's what
Okay,
brings
this is the
kick in the
way
ass
that I
we
see the
need.
realm.
Yeah.
Exactly. This is the
Yeah.
way I see the realm. They didn't give you a list of things they're going to ban. They're giving you a list of things that when you're offered it, they're not good for you for where they are, but they're very important that you get them.
Yes.
So at least here's the list, guys. Wink, wink. We're going to ban all these. Great. Here's the opportunity to start my garden. I've just cleaned out that drawer in my kitchen with all the batteries and shit in it. I'm ready to start this garden. I already have a list of what to do. That's how I see the realm, dude. Seriously.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I have that list somewhere in my emails. I will send it to you after the show, Christian, so you can take a
Hell
look. I'll
yeah.
send it to you, Brandon, as well.
Beautiful.
Yeah, but
And then we get community set up to where maybe if it doesn't grow where I'm at, Christian, where you are in Portugal, we'll have you grow a whole, yard of this shit. And then we'll send you the things that don't grow where you are that we grow the fuck out of where we are. And you see how this works? And then we don't need anybody. And then and then also we establish a private membership association to where now people donate to you and you give them things for free. There's no taxes involved in this. So now you're out of that whole bullshit also. So now it's a whole community that is set up based on the lizard turds giving us an opportunity to bind together in a way that we wouldn't have done before. Who would have thought to take that list of things and said, let's break this up and grow these together if we can in one spot and make sure that we all have access to these freely and healthily, But now we do have that information because they said it's important, but we're going to ban it.
I think we should
man.
for sure. We should. This is a genuine kick in the ass to start
Yes.
doing this stuff. It's like they say, if every each of your neighbors just specializes in one thing, you don't even have to be an expert in growing 20 different plants for food. Or you do chickens, the other guy does tomatoes,
Yeah, 3 of you
another
do
guy
weed.
does medicinal, MJ,
Weed.
whatever,
Yeah,
and we know who's gonna be the most popular, of course, the guy with the
all of them.
tomatoes. But
All of them.
oh
They're all
yeah,
going to be
but
incredible.
the
And
the
that's the thing, man. And this is what we're starting. We're coming up with these, private property communities, not hippie communes. There's something very, very
yeah.
different here. We get and respect people's privacy, okay? And lack of obligation is what's key here too. You've got to want to be here. And that's the whole point. But be close enough in proximity to have access, and then have storefronts to where all the people around in the area, the guy down the road that has all the raw milk that we love, but we don't have the cows because he's got them. Why would we do that? Then he gets to bring it here and sell it at a central location. Again, through a PMA that's tax free. So no sales tax or anything like that. If it says $25, give the man $25. That's the kind of shit right there. We don't have to do this anymore, guys, is what this is. And this is the kick in the ass. This is, thank God, they find all the demons are clapping right now. There's 80,000 demons right now swarming us all, clapping their asses off because the people that are receiving this message see it as valuable. They get it. There's a bell going off. Back to bells, right? The bells that are now ringing the parasites out of the people's ears that couldn't hear this shit before, because now it's making sense. Now it's like, oh, got it. There is no savior. It's up to us. Got it. We can do this, though. That's what's beautiful. The creator created creators.
And I think
Speaking
we
of
can look at everything, and it's all the same across the board when it comes to these mainstream systems. What used to be quality and enjoyable has now become so shitty and so toxic that it is no longer appealing, and we no longer want to buy their products, engage with it.
Nailed it.
I look at the fast food, look at the customer service in every restaurant, look at your medical industry. We have a saline shortage, really? How are we having saline shortages? It's like they're trying to push us because they are doing their jobs so shitty, and they're presenting things in a way that, look how shitty this is. You don't want this. It's becoming obvious that it's time, man. It's time to put it all to bed.
Think of the beauty in it, though. Think of the geniusness and how challenging it's got to be to present something that does need to be done, but to do it so shittily that you inspire the true creators of the realm, which is your job, to create it for you. And so your job.
$20 for a Taco Bell fast food meal. Come on, man.
And then, somebody out here is going to go, shit, I've always wanted to start my taco truck. Why don't I do this? And then I can go open a restaurant out there on these folks' property. And it sounds like they have multiples, so I can actually set up multiples. And now I can employ all these people and do my thing in a healthy. Like, you see how this is the thing that we're talking about here. It's take your fucking life back. But I will appreciate the genius of the lizard turds. Number one, I'm not scared of him. Number two, I do appreciate their job in being able to motivate us in really interesting and creative and imaginative ways that's based on every single person's soul narrative. It's got to be based on your soul narrative, which is, again, another challenge, I would think, for these lizard turds. And then said lizard turds have to sit there and make something to where they put your attention on it, but to where they motivate you to create it yourself rather than what they are offering you. That's beauty. I see it. It's a complex, beautiful web, and that is where I see God right there, because we have a choice to do it.
I wonder if they even know they're doing that. I wonder if they
Yeah.
think that they're doing this for their own means and control, but it's just unfolding in a completely different way.
What if the demons come to the same epiphanies that we do at the same time? They're sitting there going, hang on, are we the ones motivating them? Because all we have to do is, and then would that then alter their methods of implementation? If we're now more aware and keen and looking for it in that way, do they still have to present trucks and bricks, or can it all be feathers? Can we all just, get what we need here, which is advancing all of us and expanding into the greatest version of us, but without the rocket fuel needed to motivate us in a shitty way, like with pitchforks and such.
I think in Robert Greene, in his book, The 33 Strategies of War, I think it's called, I think he said in one of the chapters that in a battle or conflict, it's the weaker side actually influences how the battle will go, right? Because imagine they say, okay, guys, y'all gonna have to get these jabs here, and then people are like, okay, let's get the jabs, and they're like, okay, they got the jabs. What's the next thing? Okay, then let's next super boosters. But if people are like, no, screw you, we're not gonna get the jabs. Like, okay, these fuckers don't want to get the jabs. We have to scare the shit out of them, or maybe alien invasion is the next thing we got to do. So it's the weaker side kind of pushes the battle, whether it's gonna be up a mountain, in the water, in the trenches, on the open field. So we actually, like, I know it's kind of a cliche to say, but we have a lot of power
All the
because
power.
if you
All of
can,
it.
if you just start doing your own thing and you don't even like you just log in your phone just to check your emails, talk to your friends, family, that phone, as an amazing of a spy device and control device it is, that loses a lot of its power, and all you have to do is just leave it at home when you left the house.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it's
Plus, if you
easier
take
than we think to take back control. It's just taking that first step. It's severing that cord of something you really rely on that's part of the system. There's always that one thing for people that's the hardest to detach from, that's going to prevent them from living their lives fully. But once you take that first step, man, everything else just kind of starts falling in place and it becomes easier.
And let's say this, I don't disagree with anything you just said. And so we'll offer as a community here that if that's something you're experiencing, reach out. There's a lot of opportunities for your skills to be useful. There are so many amazing things going on. And I know that you are far more valuable and creative than anyone in your reality has given you credit for. So you bring your unsuspecting ass over here and we will absolutely empower you to go ahead and move beyond, because really it's start where the pain is, man. This is what Bree Divine talked to me about, is in this whole revocation of election process, changing the passport, all this kind of stuff. It's really unwinding from that system, but there's a lot to do. But her words are perfect, man. I mean, it's, this falls into the category of how to eat an elephant, right? Because there's a huge elephant here that we're devouring at the same time. And the answer to that is just one bite at a time, man. Just take it one fucking bite at a time. But the key thing is to start where the pain is. So if you feel financially burdened from taxes, there's a resolution to that, guys. Okay, you don't have to feel constricted to a lizard turd system, because actually you're donating your income tax every time you do it. Look up the tax law. It's insane. And if you don't want to do that anymore, there are ways that you can go about this, okay? Legally and properly, to do this, to literally free yourself if that's where the pain is. So there's a community of folks out here that is willing to help and be of service, because we're all the Chirons, man. We've all been wounded, but we're the wounded healers to show you all how to heal yourselves as well, because we've taken these steps. We've taken the arrows. Take the step. We're here for you.
Eat you some elephant etouffee, baby.
Come on.
Boys, as we wrap up, can you tell the listeners where they can find your podcasts and any other work? Chris, I know you have some documentary stuff. Maybe you can point folks to.
Sure, yes. Thank you again, Christian. Love the discussion. Had a great time. You can find all Forbidden Knowledge News content at our website, forbiddenknowledge.news, all podcast platforms. We created a new YouTube channel, so we're back there. We got Rumble, Rokfin if you want some premium content. Please go watch the Forbidden documentary, Occult Louisiana, on Tubi, multiple streaming platforms. Brandon was part of it. He's going to also be part of our upcoming film, Doors of Perception. This one we are hoping to have submitted at least by January, early January. And I'm excited, man. It's coming along beautifully.
What's that about?
This is going to be about altered states. It's called Doors of Perception. It examines the connections between near-death experiences, altered states, psychedelics, meditation, and contact experience and dreams, and how all these can form our human experience and send us synchronicities and lead us in certain directions. And it's a very in-depth examination of all this based on my whole career here. And it's got some wonderful speakers in there like Brandon Thomas. I'm really excited about that. And a great way to help us get that produced is just go watch Forbidden Documentary, Occult Louisiana, Tubi, Roku channel, many streaming platforms.
Awesome, brother.
Absolutely beautiful. I'm going to second Chris's advice to go watch that movie, because it's fucking incredible. Every time I watch it, I learn something new. Seen it multiple times now, and every single time I catch something about pirates or voodoo or something that I didn't before, and I'm just like, oh my God, this is so fascinating, or JFK or something. So Brandon Thomas here. You can find me at all the places podcasts are served, Expanding Reality. We also have a new journal out I'm very proud of. This is the 8th in the series. Number 9 actually just got published yesterday. So this is our new journal. It is a lead through. It's a Mindful Expansion Volume 2, can be found on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. This is a Barnes & Noble copy. They actually fill the pages, which is nice of them. So this is a hand-designed system here that I created, and all the instructions and stuff are in there, and you can absolutely reach out for any questions on all of that. Got some new things publishing with other authors this year, which we're very, very excited about, and so we'll talk more about that. I'll have guests for you guys with some awesome books and some people you already know that you don't know are writing books, which I'm very excited to not tell you about at this time. But
Ooh, my nipples are
excited to
hard,
tease.
man.
I know. So I wanted to, again, thank you guys for this. This has just been outstanding. And we'll be back anytime. Just remain unstoppable, guys out there. Remember, this reality is fucking all mind. And your mind is a fucking liar. Ignore it. No, don't listen to it. Just keep moving forward and surrender and flow. Be at peace. Be filled with love and kindness and move forward. Thank you guys so much. This was awesome.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah.